right, welcome back. We are here at the Beyond the Claim podcast. Welcome back to this beautiful Transcend studio here in Tampa, Florida. If anybody's looking to come out here and check this out, you're gonna want to check it out. This place is beautiful. But I'm very excited because we've got my own personal coach here with me today. We've got Megan Schwan. Megan, thank you so much for coming.
Thanks, Vince. I'm excited to be here.
Megan is a certified profit first professional, and she's also an accountant. And I have her here because, well, she is my finance coach.
Yep.
For those of you that don't know, it's I've got a coach for a lot of different things. And I felt that in order for me to get my books in order, I had read the book Profit First, and I thought the idea and the concept was phenomenal, which we're going to get into right now.
Yeah.
But as I started to implement it, it became a lot more complicated than I thought.
Yeah.
And then when I met you in our coaching group, and you were like a certified professional at Profit First, I was like, well, we got to talk to Megan and find out. So Megan, before we get into Profit First, just quickly tell me a little bit about yourself, your certifications and all that stuff. And then I really want to get down and deep into Profit First.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm Megan Schwan. I'm the CEO and founder of Sidekick Accounting. We're a virtual accounting firm, but we provide bookkeeping, tax prep, tax planning, and then Profit First services. So we do implementation, with bookkeeping, along with just business coaching, which is what we're doing with you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Thank God.
Yes.
And mind you, I have my own bookkeeper.
Yes.
And like I
she's
said,
amazing.
we tried to implement it ourselves, and again, it just wasn't working right. So I could go on and I could explain about what Profit First is, but I'd really like for you to get into more detail with it.
Yeah, absolutely. So Profit First is a cash flow management methodology and system. I like to call it a money management system. Basically, it helps you to put your money in certain buckets that you need to prioritize. Most often, business owners experience the pain points of not saving for taxes, not paying themselves what they should, not saving for profit, saving their profit, and not strategically reinvesting. So putting this system in place helps to cover those things, but then it also creates that system. And every successful business, needs to have systems in place. And this is how you do that. So ideally, then, the only time you're thinking about your money is when you're doing your allocations or your transfers, which usually is weekly or twice a month, which is what talked about in the book.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, we'll leave a link for the book below. But basically, the way I understood it, it's kind of how I used to save when I was like a one-man band.
Yeah.
So when I used to get paid on a claim, and a lot of people could relate, let's say, especially like a bigger check, but even a smaller check, let's say I got like a $5,000 commission fee. I basically used the Profit First, I would, and it was a little simpler. I would basically take what I needed for bills, and I would just put that away.
Yeah.
And then I would basically have what was remaining to spend. This is a lot more in depth.
Yes.
Because we're going to separate now. It's like, how many do I have? I have the
there's
profit
6.
account. Yeah. So basically, you're going to have to go to your bank, and you're going to or just go to your app, and you're going to open up new accounts.
Right.
You want to break it down?
Yep. So the way that we do the system or the buckets is by opening up multiple bank accounts. And that's because most people do what's called bank balance accounting. It's when they look at their bank balance to see how much money they have to work with. The problem is that doesn't account for the things that are going to clear, or those annual expenses that you pay, or the strategy behind being more intentional about your profit or whatever you have coming down the road. So by making separate bank accounts, you're able to prioritize those things, create a strategy for where your money's going, but then also stabilize your income and your cash flow, which is really important, especially if you have seasonality in any kind of variety in your business.
I think it's important that also to remember that a lot of business owners don't put the profit away, or they don't put their own money away.
Mm-hmm.
To me, that's always been a big issue. Is that a common issue where the business owner doesn't really pay themselves?
Yep, it is. It's a very common problem that business owners have. We see people all the time where they're living month to month, as you would, or paycheck to paycheck, right? It's the same concept, right? You get to the end of the month and you have zero left over, and you didn't save any money for taxes. You didn't pay yourself enough. You didn't save any profit or, any nest egg. And especially in today's economy, this is becoming a more and more important conversation, because it's been a crazy year and a half, 2 years, and we don't know what's coming. So making sure your business is profitable is important, but then also having a strategy for where those dollars are going is really, really important. And we're able to see people use this system, and their whole mindset and their whole confidence level changes about their money.
Well, I'm getting into business acquisitions now.
Mhm.
I've told you that already.
Yeah.
I plan on acquiring another business probably this year.
Yep.
And you realize that you can't sell your business if
No.
if there's no cash flow, if
Yeah.
it's not developing or producing a lot of money, if you're basically taking all your profit. Like, I love the old saying when I first was in a management position, and I would complain to the owner and be like, "You're trying to help. You have me here to help you grow this company, but you're
Yeah.
not willing to spend any money. You got to
Right.
spend money to make money," which is true to a certain extent,
A
but
certain
you
extent.
gotta keep some of it
Yeah,
too.
yeah. People always think profit is like income minus expenses, which it is. But true business profit is also paying yourself and having your business pay for your taxes and having money put away so that you're able to invest in other businesses or start other things or open another location. So really true business profit is what Profit First focuses on.
Right.
It's making sure it's covering everything, not just the expenses, but everything you want your business to do for you.
So we've got the accounts. We've got the profit account. Well, we've got the revenue account,
Yep, the income account.
income account. We've got the profit account.
Yep.
We've got the taxes account.
Yep.
We've got the operations account, OpEx, operating expenses, and then that's the heart and soul,
Yeah, and owner's pay.
and owner's pay.
Yep.
And each of those accounts are separated and allocated based on a percentage of whatever revenue is generated for that week per se, or you
Yeah.
could go per month.
Yep. But yeah, and typically the more frequently it's done, the better, because again, it's a system. So you want to make sure that you're following it. So usually on a weekly basis is helpful. In the book, it talks about at least twice a month, which is good too.
And I think it's important because, like I said, for the first time, I finally am actually seeing.
Yeah.
Again, I could look at my QuickBooks and I can see that we're profitable, but it's actually nice to see it. And what do you do at the end of the quarter is
Yeah.
you take it.
Right. Yep. You get to take half of your profit account as a bonus for yourself because you're the business owner. You've been
Yeah.
doing all the hard work. So you should get a bonus from your business.
And also, so it's any check, right? So even if you only made $1,000
Yeah.
for the week or whatever, whenever you do your allocations, that $1,000 gets allocated to a percentage, a percentage, a percentage, a percentage.
Yep. Yeah. And the percentages get figured out by taking a look at the previous 12 months typically. And we take a look at what that average has been, because most of the time when a business owner does, their previous year revenue, they're gonna be at least able to do that again, So that's kind of the concept behind that. But then we also take a look, like we went and dug into your monthly nut to find out what changed, what were those expenses that may have divided out. We did the expense analysis to figure out what every expense, had a purpose or a explanation behind everything, because we want to be intentional as business owners. And I feel like that's what Profit First also helps us do, is really dig into the intentionality behind our goals and where our business is going.
Right. Yeah. I mean, the deep dive that you did into my finances was awesome. You basically
very eye-opening, right?
Yeah, very eye-opening. You sent an entire breakdown, and the beauty about it is it's like, well, I'd like to get into the question actually before, because there is some standards, right? So what is a typical, if you're bringing in $1 million of revenue per year per se, what's a typical allocation for operating expenses, profit, taxes, and owner's pay?
Yeah, so off the top of my head, I'm not 100% sure what those are, but in the book, and that's what we operate off of, is the target allocation percentages that Mike came up with. Mike Michalowicz is the author and founder of this methodology, and he did a lot of research to figure out those numbers, and he looked at the most elite performing businesses at those revenue levels and what percentage was going to each of those buckets. So that's where those come from. And yes, it is dependent on revenue. So there's different boxes like 250, 500,000, 750,
so if you're making $250,000 a year, there's a specific allocation.
Right.
And I believe if you're making $250K, or then there's a different allocation for $500K.
Right.
There's a different allocation for $1 million, and then all the way up to like $10 million.
Yes.
And I'd realized that in the beginning, it's actually, if you're generating about $250,000 in revenue, you need to be like super low in expenses.
Yeah.
Was that?
Well, your owner's pay is like 50%.
Right,
yeah.
right.
Mm-hmm.
I found that interesting.
Yeah. It is interesting. And I always tell people that it's a target, and so it's like a goal. Like, it doesn't necessarily have to be true for you, but you need to have a direction in where you're going. And so that's how we treat target allocation percentages. Because, like, for instance, when I had my business, when I wasn't paying myself 50% at that level, but I had 2 babies back to back, so they're like within a year of each other. And so for me, what I needed out of my business was flexibility. It wasn't really the income part of it necessarily. So I hired more people at that time, because what I needed out of my business was the flexibility and the time freedom. And so that's going to be different for everybody. And so that's why we always start with the goals. Like, what do you want out of your business? Because then we have the target allocation percentages to work towards. But really, the goal is making sure you get out of your business what you want. And it's not always that monetary thing.
Got it.
It's, there's a lot of factors and pieces to being a business owner, but you got to have a direction to go in, which is why we still use the target allocation percentages, but with the understanding that it might not be fully reflective of what your goals are for your business.
I got to admit, Megan, you surprised me that when I brought you on, that you have acted just as much as a coach.
Yeah.
Like, I thought I was going to bring you on and be like, oh, we're going to get these allocated. Everything's going to be good. And we'll make sure, and we're going to keep you on to make sure that, it's just all accounted for and it's being done correctly. I thought it was more like a technical thing.
Yeah.
But the beauty of it, Megan, is you've truly helped just in the last couple of months, just really like.
I appreciate that.
Because you asked the right questions. It's not, like you said, it's not just about allocating this percentage to this percentage. It depends on what your goals are, and we have to allocate it. And you've given me some great advice on what to cut out and how I should do it, because you're also a fellow business owner.
Yes, yeah. And that's why I really love what we get to do, because we get to talk on that level, and I get to take my own personal experience and all the things I've learned over the last 11 years and help other business owners with that. And that's a really amazing thing.
So is that how long you've been the owner of Sidekick Accounting Services?
It is, yes.
Okay, for 11 years? Mm-hmm. Tell me about the story of when you first ran into Profit First.
So Profit First, I actually read the book probably like 6 years ago, I would say. And I was very skeptical about it.
Really?
Yes.
How many times did you reread it? Because I had to reread it like 3 or 4 times.
I've read it twice, actually.
Yeah, you have to.
Yeah, you do.
It's like Traction for me. Have you ever read Traction, where you got to go back to it and get back to it? It's not really a book to read. It's almost like a handbook, like a workbook.
Yep, for sure. But I read it about 6 years ago, and I was really skeptical about it because of the multiple bank accounts thing. And the big reason for that was because we had, up to that point, seen a lot of business owners who had multiple accounts, not Profit First, but just in general.
It gets a little, I feel like it gets like a lot. It
can be, yeah, but that's why it's so important to have it set up as a system and not like just having haphazard accounts and moving transfers haphazardly. Like, you got to treat it as a system in order for it to work really effectively. But we had a lot of clients that were bouncing things for various reasons, or, would have an issue with transferring. And so, like, that was one of the big things that I was really skeptical about. It wasn't until I heard Mike speak again, where he was really talking about the system and how their goal is to cure or change entrepreneurial poverty. And by that time, I think 2.5 years ago, 3 years ago, maybe now, I had seen a lot of that. It was like post-COVID. People were still reeling, and they were either going one direction or the other, either very successful or really struggling. And so that really was in line with our goal and vision at Sidekick, because my mission has been to change the statistic that 8 out of 10 small businesses fail. And so it was really in alignment with that. So I went and I explored the certification process and decided that it was the right move to do, because it would help our mission, help further their mission, and ultimately it would help people be more successful.
That's interesting. So you were a little skeptical about
it.
I was.
Yep.
You said it was about 2 years ago that you ran into it?
Well, 6 years ago I read the book, and then 2 to 3 years ago, I think, was when I heard Mike speak again, and that was when I was like, oh, let me look into this again a little bit deeper, and I'm really glad I did.
Do you implement it to all of your clients?
Not all of them yet, although we do what we call a strategic savings with all of our clients, which is where we give them a tax savings amount and a profit savings amount for every month. So.
Got it. Yeah, and that's what I liked about it too, is you could tell, like, it's all about, again, we talk about it with Martell and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Like it's all about having the why and about lifting up others and helping others. And you
Yeah.
can tell that in the book, that's the whole reason for the
Yeah.
entire system is
Right.
because of that, is because most business owners, well, I mean, most business owners, I'm assuming, are just probably kind of a mess with
Yeah.
their books a lot, right? Maybe not
Yeah.
all of them, but I'm sure a lot of them. But again, I just think that most business owners, I got on a stage one time, and one of the things that I told everybody from the stage was just like, guys, pay yourself.
Yeah.
This is before Profit First, but it was because in the beginning of my entrepreneurial journey, I had a tennis academy. And I can tell you in 5 years, Megan, I bought myself an iPad.
Yeah.
That was the only
it.
owner's compensation that I got for
Yeah.
5 years. Now, mind you, I was a full-time public adjuster, so
Right.
it didn't matter. And I was trying to spend money, not make money, and
Yeah.
just try to grow as much as possible. Well, spend money to make money.
Yeah.
And it just stayed stagnant, and I never got anything out of it. And, you know, I mean, it was rewarding because I was a coach, but
Yeah.
it wasn't like I didn't get anything out of it. And that's just, it seems like it's probably a common problem.
It is, yeah. And I think business owners do the same thing, you know, where they're like, I need this expense, or, you know, they'll come across a kind of program, or they won't understand their pricing and really what profitability is and margins are. And so that, you know, and then it just kind of compiles. So then you have all these like little things that affect your profitability that you're not paying attention to. And that's what we're working with you now on, is those profit points, you know, in the business, because it goes beyond just the system and beyond just the cash flow management. Really, truly implementing Profit First also gets into the profit points of your business. And that's a really important thing to address as well. That's a lot of things the business owners miss.
Yeah, yeah. The profit thing was a new one. Oh, and then the taxes too, because you're also saving for taxes.
Yep.
Every single week, making
Yeah.
sure that you have enough.
Yep.
Yeah, because man, that revenue, if you have an S Corp and now it all falls on you,
Yeah.
and you base it on that revenue and then on the profit, and you don't have that money saved up, it could hurt really, really bad.
Yeah, and that's a very common pain point we see people have as well. So that was actually when we started doing the profit savings, the strategic profit savings for all of our clients was post-COVID, because, you know, everybody had 2019 taxes done in 2020.
Right.
And a lot of people had really great years, and then they didn't have any money in 2020 to pay those taxes. So that was also when I got into tax planning.
Gotcha. What would you say is, besides not paying themselves, I think is one, but what's the number one mistake people make when it comes to their finances, or business owners?
I think just not being intentional about it. You know, like we wear tons of hats as business owners, and so often this finance part is a pain point for people. You know, it's something that they don't enjoy talking about, or they feel nervous about, or ashamed, or not confident. And so then they kind of just brush it to the background, and they've missed the fact that everything comes down to your numbers. So the better you know your numbers, the better you can be a better business owner, the more confident you can be about your business. And they miss that. And that's usually the most common things. Like, people don't pay attention, they don't prioritize, they're not intentional about their money or their finances, or having a better understanding of their money in business, because it's important.
Based on the profit, when's a good time? So at the end of every quarter, just for people that don't know, basically you take the amount of profit that you've saved up.
Yep.
And you break it down.
Yeah, you disperse half of it, 50% of it.
Because I'm still just starting out, by the way.
Unless there's debt. So if you have debt in your business, because the goal, again, is that your business sustains everything that happens in your business. So ideally, you should be able to do a lot of your business without having any kind of debt. So at the end of the quarter, if you have debt, you are going to bonus yourself a small amount, because we want to solidify, or trying to think of the word.
Yeah, like encourage the habit. We put so much work into it.
Yeah. Reinforce the habit
of paying yourself.
Yeah,
give yourself a bonus at the end of every quarter.
Yeah, reinforce the using of the system, you know, as well.
The idea of the bonus, to me, the business owner, by the way, like, I always felt like so ashamed.
Right.
But I mean, we do work harder than everybody else, ultimately.
Exactly. Yes. So your business should be bonusing. So you want to take at least a little bit to bonus yourself every quarter, and then put a bigger chunk of money towards the debt until you pay that out. If you do not have debt in your business, or if you already have a debt plan maybe that you're utilizing, you take 50% of that profit and pay yourself or bonus yourself out at the end of the quarter.
At what point, there is a point where you start reinvesting in the business?
You can. So the profit the profit account is also there if an opportunity comes around. So if you have a once in a lifetime opportunity or something that you didn't plan for and you're like, I want to jump on this, now you have money put away for something extra.
Did you say at the end of the quarter, 50% of the profit you leave in there, right?
Mm-hmm.
And 50% you take for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
The only thing I don't like about the profit first system, because I haven't found the right place, is the separate bank that he suggests you should have.
Yeah. So I might get dinged for this as a PFP. But,
okay.
But in my opinion, the completely separate bank account really depends on you and your personality.
Yeah, because you've never mentioned that to me. I don't want you to get dinged, but yeah.
Yeah, because
and I haven't asked you
because
about
I think you're very organized.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
if my wife is listening right now, she'd be like, "Who is she talking to?"
Well, in terms of like how you have like you won't touch it, you know. So and you have built your business successfully up until this point already that you're not like scrambling to move money from one account to another account. So if you struggle with that, or if you have the personality that if it's like you see it, then you want to take it kind of a thing, you need to put it in a completely separate bank.
What does he call it again?
It's hard to access it. It's like a no-touch bank.
Yeah, I forgot what he calls it.
I forget what he calls it too.
So in the book, he suggests basically that you've got all your different accounts, but when it comes to the profit account and the tax account, you actually want to you want to go to a separate bank that you don't normally go to,
right?
Which is funny.
Which is hard to access, so like that you don't have online access to or something like that.
It's funny for me growing up as an adult, actually. My mom was part of the Florida educational system, and she had an account in the Florida Educational Credit Union.
Okay.
And I remember when I was like, I don't know, 17, 18, 19, whatever, she opened an account for me. And in that account, she would basically every month or so when she'd get paid, she'd allocate a little bit for me.
Yeah.
Just so I would have some money saved. And it was great because it was the credit union, there was no online access.
Yeah.
I had to go over there just to get the money. And then when I started public adjusting, I was like, you know what? I'm going to use that account.
Yeah.
So that every time I made a good amount of money, I would basically take it and I would allocate a certain amount to my bills. And then I would allocate 20% right off the bat, just for profit. And I would just go to the bank, I would write a check, and I would deposit it, 20%. And that sucker built. And then whatever was left over, so it would be my expenses, 20%, 20% first, expenses, and then I could have my play money.
Yeah.
And it was great because when I was reading the book, I was like, holy crap, that's my credit union.
Right.
So it's like, it's an idea that I had already sort of come up with. It's just a bank account or a bank that's hard to get to so that you don't touch it.
Right. Kind of the out of sight, out of mind concept.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. Tell me a little bit about yourself, Megan, about your journey in becoming an accountant and then ultimately a profit first. But we already heard that story. But yeah, tell me a little bit about yourself and growing up.
Sure. So I'm the oldest of 5 kids. So I have the oldest child tendencies, being a leader, being very a personality, I guess, in some ways. Perfectionist, kind of a thought. But I got into accounting when I was a teenager. I had a teacher in high school who saw it in me, I guess. She was like, you really have a knack for this. You should think about making it a career. I got pregnant when I was 16. Oof. So, yeah.
You started young, Megan.
I did. But, at that time I had to figure out like what I was going to do to be able to provide for myself and my daughter. And accounting just seemed like the right way to go. So I did. I got my degree in accounting. During college, I met and then married my husband at the time, and had another baby and quit my full-time job. So, and I was working in the accounting department for a manufacturing company. So at that point, I got a part-time job at a landscaping company. And my full-time job called me back. The person they hired to replace me wasn't working out, so they created a part-time position for me as well. So I was working 2 part-time jobs, mostly from home. Did that for about 2 years, and then I got laid off of both of those jobs within a month of each other.
I can relate. Relate.
It's a common thread of problems I think a lot of us entrepreneurs have.
Yes. Getting fired? Getting fired? Yes.
Getting fired or stuff going on. One business was like restructuring. The other one needed a revamp and they couldn't afford to keep me and the other person that they hired to do that. But that's what kind of made me go into small business. I was doing taxes on the side already, thought I could do bookkeeping for other people. I was doing it for the landscaping company and just started networking and growing. And now 11 years later, we serve hundreds of clients every year, probably thousands, if we talk about all the conversations I have as well. And I have 7 employees currently, and we work with clients across the U.S. So it grew into something I wasn't anticipating, but it's been amazing. Now I have 4 kids, solo mom, and my business allowed me to make some hard decisions, but important decisions for my business. And I think that, or for my family with my business. And I think that's why I'm really passionate about helping people be successful now, because outside of it being most of our livelihood for most of us, it also gives us the ability to choose. Mm-hmm. And I think that's really, really important. So
you mentioned in your bio here about systems.
Yes.
And how important they are.
They are. Yep. That is one thing I've definitely learned in my 11 years in business, is that if you want to create a successful and a sustainable business, you need to have systems in place for pretty much everything.
Yes. Yes.
And if you want to sell or you want to buy, those are things that people look at too. Like if your business can't operate without you, essentially your business is not going to be worth a whole lot.
Yes.
And the way you make it work without you is by creating systems for other people to follow.
Exactly. So, exactly. You also mentioned here, in relation to systems, how did systems and delegation, how did that ultimately transform your business?
So I think...
And I want to go before that.
Okay.
When did that realization come about where like, okay, we need to start implementing some stuff so that this could actually flow the way it's supposed to flow?
Yeah, I think for us, or for me, it wasn't until about year 4, believe it or not.
Yes.
So in year 4, I think I had my 3rd child, and I had to hire more people. Yeah. And kind of figure out like how I was going to still manage everything, because that's the beauty of systems also, is when you have them set up effectively, now you can build a system to manage. You can build the KPIs and build the dashboard, for it. But you got to have the systems in place first to be able to do that. It also helps make things more efficient, make sure that there's no scope creep, as well, because you have clearly defined lines as to what your services involve and what they don't. So I think around year 4 was when we kind of figured that out, or I figured it out. And then my right-hand person, who's also my sister, actually works for me. So we kind of collaborate on a lot of things. But that was kind of when we're like, okay, we really need to start getting things in place. Hiring was another big area where we needed to put systems in place for that as well, because that is always a struggle. But systems make it better. And it makes it clearer, makes it more efficient. And ultimately, that's what you need to be successful and sustainable. And that's why corporate has lots of systems.
I call it McDonaldizing your business.
Yeah, exactly.
The best book that made me realize that was E-Myth Revisited.
Yeah.
Where he talks about McDonaldizing your business. Yes. Every cheeseburger, every hamburger is made the exact same way. Yeah. I love that movie too, The Founder.
Yeah.
When he runs into the business, he's just like, holy crap, how like everything was just so like on point. It's so important. It's so important. If you're gonna scale your business, I think it's just tough because so many business owners are married to their business. Yeah. They can't let go of it. There's a business here in the Tampa area where I'm speaking. He's about to sell the business, and we met with him, and he's just like, I can't take it anymore. Yeah, young guy. And I'm like, well, so he's telling me like he does this, he does this, he does that. Like he does almost everything. He's got one person in the office, and he's got like 2 people that go out on the field. Yeah. He does all the sales. He does all the estimating. He does all the networking. He's the manager. He's the operations manager. He's the marketing manager. Like he does everything.
So he's burnt out.
He's burnt out. And I said, why don't you just hire somebody to help you take off your plate? He's like, I'm extremely self-aware of the kind of person that I am. Yeah. And know that I'm too controlling. And I want to have control. I want to make sure things are going. So I know that's not going to go well. Yeah. So I'd rather just sell the business. How crazy is that?
It's crazy. Yeah.
Because it could be just as simple as just hiring 1 or 2 people that could literally make you go from here to here, plus give you more time and freedom to just do the things that you like to do.
Yeah. Yeah. And the control thing is always funny to me because it's like you actually have less control when you're
Mm-hmm.
trying to do everything. So, like, the more you can systematize and delegate, the more control you actually have over the outcome, the service quality, the culture. Um, you have way more control over your business when you have systems and people in place.
I literally every Monday I follow Dan Martell's
Hmm.
what does he say, his lead in a way where every Monday I do leadership training
Yeah.
with my team now. So basically just try to
Right.
teach them leadership principles and stuff
Hmm.
like that. Not with the leadership team, just literally for everybody in
Everybody.
both companies.
Hmm.
Just try to better them. And today we did literally just got back from it. We did I did a whole training on checklists.
Hmm.
So what I'm doing now is I'm creating models for training,
Yeah.
and I created a checklist workflow system. And basically, it's just and it's actually going to be on the YouTube show this Wednesday.
Nice.
Basically, it's I was coaching them, teaching them about the importance of breaking down everything that they do
Yeah.
and try to create checklists and systems behind every single piece that needs to sort of have one.
Yeah.
So like even my admin, for example, who she really handles a lot of the claims and make sure that they're followed up on. I said, with that, like you need a checklist of like from when you turn on your computer and
Yeah.
first thing you do is you check your email. Second thing you do is you go into the CRM. But then that you can go even further where she's following up on claims. What's your checklist when you just go into one claim?
Yeah.
You open up that claim. Where's the first place that you go to? Chances are you follow sort of the same direction every single time.
Right.
So what I tried to tell them to encourage them is that what I'm doing now this year, my word of the year is to be impactful. And what I'm trying to do with my team is to try to really build and expand them to become leaders. And I
Yeah.
told them, I said, if we're going to scale and if we get a hurricane, for instance, and it just becomes crazy overwhelming,
Right.
this person in particular who handles the claims, like you need to have all of that built out so that we could take on somebody and they could
And
be
they
on
can
and
come in.
running.
Yeah, exactly.
Or if you want to go on vacation, I could
Mhm.
put somebody in and it could be good.
Yeah.
But it'll help you be a better leader because now you'll be able to sort of delegate some of your tasks so that you could focus on the more important things.
Right.
It's
Yep.
just so important.
Yep.
Yeah.
And it's that trickle down, but it starts with the leaders, us as CEOs. So that's great.
What's the most I don't know if I want to ask this one because it's going to be profit first, unless you have something else. My question was going to be, what's the most important financial system that every business owner should have if they're trying to scale?
Well, profit first is definitely a key one, but I would say the most important one is probably having a bookkeeping system in place. So,
For example,
for example, just making sure the
like
bookkeeping's getting
QuickBooks.
done, yeah, on a monthly basis.
It is very nice to just be able to go on my QuickBooks online
Yeah.
account, and I know that it's updated because Anna updates it all
Right.
the time.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's a big one.
Yeah. And I mean, that's really the starting foundational piece, even with Profit First. Like, we can't do our job as Profit First professionals, PFPs, if we don't have the numbers, And so having the numbers in place and put together and accurate is the first step to pretty much everything when it comes to
Which
a successful business.
you may have already answered the question is, how can understanding financial numbers really help business owners scale successfully?
Yeah, I mean, every decision goes back to your numbers, whether you know it or not. So the more you know your numbers, the more you're going to have a handle on your decisions and how to improve them and what tweaks to make and what changes to make. But you gotta have them put together first. And bookkeeping's like the most simple, numbers to put together. But then it goes beyond that as well, like client acquisition and retention, numbers and your other KPIs related to operations are all important as well. But the first big thing you want to have in place is bookkeeping.
my marketing team, one of the marketers, we want to start doing ads and stuff like that.
Yeah.
He's like, Vince, what's the budget? And I said, when am I meeting with Megan again? I said, I'll let you know on the 8th.
Yep. So now I know what we're going to talk about.
Yeah. So you mentioned Profit First as a system.
Yes.
At the end of the day, how does that compare to like your normal systems and processes and stuff like that?
Well, I mean, it's similar to how any other system is built. I think that with Profit First, it's a system that is going to be recurring. So some systems are, like when you hire, you use a system for hiring, but you only use it when you're hiring, right? So with Profit First, it's an ongoing system in your business. It's a money management system. So whenever you have money coming in, you disperse it, based off of that. And then, like I said, then you can dig deeper into the profit points once you have the money management part put in place.
At what point, my question actually is kind of like a personal question. Like, so what if we have like a really bad month, but the expenses are still relatively the same every single month? Or what if we have 2 or 3 bad months? Like, how do you work with that? How do you adjust that if there's some expenses that you just can't cut or just maybe not right at the moment?
Yeah, and I think sometimes, so a couple of things. One is that if you've been working the system for a period of time, it will help stabilize those months that are bad.
Okay.
Because you're already kind of planning for your averages ahead of time.
Okay.
So in theory, if you've been working the system and you've been sticking with it, even if you have a bad revenue month, you'll still have money in your OpEx account to cover the expenses, because we looked at your like break even essentially and made sure that was covered every single month, regardless of if your revenue goes up or down.
Gotcha.
And that's why it's percentage based. So it changes with the percentage of everything, but eventually, ideally, it stabilizes it.
It does.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So that's one. The other thing is that sometimes we tell ourselves a story about not being able to cut expenses. Or we've been telling ourselves a story about why we can't get more revenue in.
Mm-hmm.
So I think a lot of successful business ownership comes down to being self-aware and real with ourselves, and to whether or not we're really, the story we're telling ourselves is true, or whether or not we really need to make an adjustment in our mindset. And I think that's a big part of it too.
I'd like for you to elaborate on that if you can.
Elaborate on that?
Well, I mean, I think it's true. I think it's at what point does someone need to like realize, okay, I need to get up there, get after, and get more sales, or I need to like let some people go? I mean, you're pretty good with that. Like you're
and it is tough to determine that. I think when you've been in business for around, I would say like 2 to 3 years, you kind of have an idea of how much time. Yeah, but for sure, like around that point is like most people will have an idea of how their business operates. They'll have an idea on what their clients are, how much time they need to spend to get new clients. Like you kind of know your business at about 2 to 3 years. So you have to trust your judgment, and there are such things as calculated risks that sometimes you have to do. And there are times when sometimes getting loans is going to help you with that calculated risk, because sometimes you have to pay before you see the ROI. I think but we have to be real with ourselves about that. Like if we're looking at a program or at an expense or having an employee, sometimes it's like, okay, is now the time for this? We actually just had a client who did this. She let one of her team members quit. She decided to not rehire for that position. Instead, she took on the work because she's not at the profitability that she wants to be. So instead of her like delegating that out, she was like, nope, I got to get in and I got to do the grind right now as well. And it's actually been really great for her because she's saw some opportunities to fill the gaps, to make things more efficient that she wouldn't otherwise have seen if she hadn't gone back into that position. So I think sometimes we have to be open to getting our hands dirty again, if you will, or to being honest with ourselves as to whether or not it's us showing up or if it's us making excuses.
Right.
And that's why I love Dan, because he's so real about that kind of stuff, where it's like, if you want to be a leader, you got to show up like a leader, and if you want to be a successful business owner, you got to show up as a successful business owner. And so sometimes that means like being real with yourself about not doing your 5 non-negotiables, and like what's stopping you. And a lot of times it's us stopping ourselves as business owners. So like it's a combination of those things. Like your numbers are important, but also your mindset and how real you are with yourself is also part of that success.
Yeah, I mean, I made the mistake 2 years ago where I just started hiring and hiring and hiring and hiring because I thought that that's what you were supposed to do. You were just supposed to hire all these people to do all these different things, and that creeps up on you really, really fast.
It does, yeah. And even like the coaching thing, like I'm obviously a coach too, but I think a lot of people have gotten confused about when it's appropriate to bring on a coach. And I don't think it's always right to bring on like a really big business coach when you don't even know your business yet. And we saw a lot of people do that this past year where they were solopreneurs and they hired this really high ticket coach, and now they're in debt, and some of them have even closed. And it's like, because you can't do that right off the bat. Like, you got to kind of get your hands dirty in your business first before you just bring on somebody who's going to tell you to do things that you're not even sure are right for your business. Like, you have to be in your business first to know what it needs. And I think that's where people sometimes miss that part, especially when they're just jumping into business ownership, is like, they don't even know their business enough to know what they need. And you really got to do that part first.
What's the proper mindset that you think a successful entrepreneur should have?
They should want to learn all of the things about their business.
For sure.
So I always tell people that. I'm like, we can do bookkeeping, we do taxes, but we will sit down and we will walk through every line on your taxes with you, so that you have an understanding, because you don't have to do it, but you got to have at least a base understanding of how everything works in your business.
Give me a failure story, Megan, like a time where you, some kind of failure in your business journey where, you felt like, I'd like to pinpoint a good one too, that you felt like was a turning point for you.
So one of the big stories that I have, and I have probably many because I've made lots of mistakes. I have, unfortunately, too many as well. But one of the big ones for me was when I was a couple years in business. We had a client that we'd been working with for a while, but we had just changed their payroll system, and there was a miscommunication. I was kind of still at the time, like, I had this self-esteem issue, for a long time too. So I was still kind of struggling with that. So they were like, no, we want to do this way, even though I knew that probably wasn't the right way to go about doing it. And we did it anyways. We ran the payroll, and it ended up bouncing. Oh. And
you were in charge of payroll.
And I was in charge of payroll.
Ouch.
So some of their employees had overdraft fees, and it was a little bit of a mess. At least I felt like it. Like, I was so sick to my stomach all night long, trying to figure out what to do. And we got it cleaned up. We got it fixed. I refunded their overdraft fees. I took everybody in their office, because it was somebody that was local for us. Everybody in the office donuts and juice the next morning, and apologized. And I think what I realized at that point was, I'm way harder on myself than anybody else.
You should be, but you should be.
Because everybody else was like, it's fine, no worries. Like, we got it handled. It's okay. I also realized that that is something that people will do. They'll extend you grace. Yeah. Especially as long as you're communicating, you're apologizing, you're taking accountability. Most of the time, people are going to be very, very gracious with you in your mistakes.
Most of the time.
Most of the time.
Yes.
And there have been some other times where it was like, we made a mistake. It was definitely a mistake. And, we lost a client or whatever. And, but what I've learned too, is not to get stuck in that, not to get stuck in the failure, but to take it as an opportunity to say, okay, what was our part in this? What was their part in this? How can we make sure this doesn't happen again, and just move forward? Yeah. And even if there is any truth, because we've had some clients where they're like, this is your fault. And it's like, well, actually, I tried to call you 5 times and you didn't answer. So, kind of a situation. Yeah. So taking a look at whether or not whatever happened is actually true, and then improving from there. And I think that was one of the big things that has really helped my business journey. Okay. Because you do make mistakes. We're all humans, and I always tell people, there's no such thing as an accounting emergency either. Nobody's going to die.
I tell my staff all the time, nothing I ask of you needs to be done immediately. Yeah. At the very least, it's 24 hours it can get done. It doesn't have to happen right now.
Yeah. So just kind of giving yourself that grace. Yeah. And taking those failures as opportunities to learn, improve, and grow. So,
well, ultimately, you are an entrepreneur. You're a business owner. You've had this business for 11 years. We can talk till our heads fall off about finances, but what is your mindset? What are some of the things that you tell yourself? What are some of the things that you practice on a daily basis to keep you motivated and to keep you going as a business owner? Because it's tough.
It is tough. Yes. Probably lots of different things. Definitely the failure thing is a big, mindset for me. The other thing is just realizing that people need my expertise, and so just being able to show up as the best version of myself as often as I can is important.
How many employees do you have?
I have 7 employees right now.
Okay.
2 contractors.
Okay. Mm-hmm. 7 employees, 2 contractors.
Yeah.
What are some of the things you do to make sure that you could show up as a good leader?
Well, we have our company values, so I have those posted in my workspace, and then we also go over them as a team twice a week. So we're just kind
Wow.
of keeping those top of mind, top of view. It talks about, like how we show up for our clients, how we show up for each other, what our goal is, ultimately. And that really helps to keep things in perspective and keep things focused on the good, because that can be hard these days as well, like focusing on the positive things.
Yeah.
So we do that. Talking to clients is always a pick me up, so I love just being able to strategize and talk through and give people a different perspective. It actually lifts me up as well. So I
Nice,
like doing that a
nice.
lot as well. And then just like sharing what I know, my business journey, the good and the bad. I'm very transparent on like social media and stuff like that. I'll tell you the real struggle.
Yeah, yeah.
Struggle being a solo single mom and a business owner. Like it's
not,
a lot.
yeah, that's a lot. That's
It's a lot some days.
I
so.
posted a video the other day where I said, I do not look up to the 20-something-year-old that's an entrepreneur and in good shape and all this with no kids, no spouse, no anything.
Right.
It's more of like late 30s, 40-something-year-old that's got to take care of their parents, take care of their kids, take care of their household, and still be in shape and a successful entrepreneur and all of that stuff.
Adulting is tough.
Adulting is tough. Adulting is tough.
Yeah. Add on that the layers of business ownership.
Oh my God.
So
What about AI? Is there a way that AI can help us with our finances and make sure that, we're still keeping track? Are there any tools out there, anything like that?
Well, most accounting software these days has some components of AI attached to it. I think that'll just continue to progress. I think where it's never gonna get there is with the relationship part of it. So I know like for us, that's what we really focus a lot on is like the strategy and relationship part,
Mhm.
because everybody's situation is different. Everybody's goals are different. So having an understanding of that, we can customize things to people, which I don't think AI will ever fully get there.
Right.
And then the relationship part of it too. I think especially these days, people are starving for interaction, for being seen, and so like that's what we really focus on with our clients is like we want to be their sidekicks along their business journey. So working with them, getting to know their family and their business and their goals is really important to what we do.
That's awesome. Yeah, I mean, I would say
Yeah.
AI is probably much better for like marketing and systems and processes and stuff like that. But yeah, the bookkeeping relationship is probably pretty important.
Yeah. Yep, it is. So.
Well, I mean, honestly, Megan, I do really appreciate you coming on.
Yeah, thank you.
It's really been a great experience so far, and I've got such a much better understanding of my books now than I ever did before.
Yeah.
It's like so much better.
I know. That's a thing we hear a lot from our clients. Like just the feeling of confidence and empowerment is like it's unmatched, and I think that's what I really like about Profit First is it really just helps you to have a more tangible understanding of your money and your profit. And that's huge for business owners because I think a lot of times that's why people shy away from it is because they just don't understand it. So,
do you ever have people come in that they don't even know what it is and you're the one that's telling them about it? Do you first guide them to the book to like read the book first?
Yeah, usually at least the first few chapters. But I mean, what we do goes beyond that. So like a lot of times they've either read it or I give them a copy of it to start the conversation. And then we start talking about what the benefits of it are, right?
Right. Yeah, it makes total sense for me. And I just, I promote it all the time. And I strongly recommend that anyone who owns a business, who runs a business, you need to purchase that book is the first thing you have to do and read through that book. And then you need to contact Megan. You want to have Megan as your sidekick because it's going to help you just get a much better understanding. I think the biggest fear that entrepreneurs have, and I used to joke about it all the time, but I think I told myself it so many times that it actually almost happened, is I think one of the biggest fears, you're just afraid of running out of money.
Yeah.
And with the Profit First system, that fear kind of goes away.
Yes.
Because it's getting allocated. You're aware of the direction you're headed in before you actually get there.
Yeah.
And then you can do those things of increase sales or let people go or cut expenses and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So that's the best part of it because it's always that fear. But I kept telling myself that. And then in 2023, it almost happened.
Yeah. A lot of the stuff that we tell ourselves can come to pass.
Yes, yes. No,
So-
I mean, the story that we tell ourselves is by far, I learned that from my therapist.
Yeah, right.
She would stop me and she'd be like, why do you keep saying that?
Yeah.
Why do you keep saying that?
Yeah.
And I was like, holy crap, I never noticed that I was so negative upon myself.
Yeah,
It's pretty wild.
it is. Yeah.
Megan, how can people contact you, even though we have all your contact information below?
Well, pretty much all the things. So you can call or text or email me. And then I'm also on LinkedIn, Facebook, and Instagram. So any of those places.
You're easy to find.
Yep.
Guys, I strongly recommend it. Honestly, you got to get control of your books. You have to get an understanding of your finances. If you don't, you're going to be in trouble. I agree with you, Megan, is just have your books in order first. I'm sure that made your life a little bit easier, right? Having all my books already in order.
Yeah, it did.
Have all your books in order first, and then Megan will literally jump in and sit down with you. And again, you caught me by surprise because you're like also a business coach.
Yeah.
I thought it was just going to be a finance thing, and you've really helped a lot. And really, you even gave me the thing like, writing down like, what am I spending too much time on, and so on and so forth. So guys, reach out to Megan, reach out to me if you want to speak to Megan as well, and follow her on social media, and really just shoot her a message and see if you can at the very least, get some advice, and really consider implementing Profit First as soon as you can.
Yeah. All
Megan?
questions are welcome. So don't hesitate to reach out. And if you do need help with your books, we also can
Also
help
do
with
that.
that.
Also do bookkeeping as well.
Yep.
So Megan, thank you for driving all the way over here and meeting me
Yeah,
here.
thank you.
I really appreciate your time.
Thank you. It was a
Thanks.
pleasure.
Thanks.